This video is about how to use AI to speed up storyline production. I used Microsoft Copilot to generate a script. Articulate allows text to be generated right in the program, but I wanted the whole script generated, so I used Copilot to do that. That way I could plan out the entire course better. Articulate Storyline also allows images to be generated right inside the program. All you have to do is go up to the top, type in the prompt that you want to use to generate the images, and press Generate Image. No matter which program you use to generate any text or images, make sure you look at them and fact check them to make sure that they are accurate before you put them into your project. The more images you generate, the more options you have to choose from. It's best to study the contents of the module so that you know which images you want to generate. Even if you only like part of an image, you can still download it because you can edit the image later. You can download each image individually, or you can download all of them at the same time. They will save to your media library within Articulate Storyline, not your Documents folder. Once you've generated enough images, it's time to make your first slide. Go up to New Slide, click the drop-down box, and press Content Library. This pulls up the templates. Using templates is the fastest way to create content because the layout is already there, so all you have to do is change the layout. You don't have to make it from scratch. You can delete the existing slide because you won't need it. To change the background, you can delete it. You can change the background color. And you can add one of the images that were just generated. You can add alt text to each one at this point if you want to, but I prefer to add all the alt text at the end so that I can make sure that I get every picture on every page. Press Insert Image and it will appear on the slide. But there's a problem. It's in front of the text. If you send it to back and then send the existing background to the back, then it will be in the correct order. Don't forget to save your work frequently. It does not autosave. At this point, you can check the script again and copy the title and paste it onto the template. As it is right now, this text is kind of hard to see against the background. You can change the font color, and you can also put its own background behind it. The company name and logo most likely already have their own color scheme, so it doesn't really matter what color you make the font at this point. If the text box scrolls, stretch it out. Make sure to save your work often. You can leave the title and subtitle separate, but Storyline also allows you to have multiple lines of text in the same text box with different font sizes. So if that works better, if it looks better for what you're doing, you can absolutely do that. One way to add a background is to put a highlight behind it, but a better way is to put a fill color into the text box. And you can do that by right-clicking on the text box and going down to Format Shape. You press Solid Fill. You can change it to whatever color you want. And you can make it transparent so you can kind of see the background behind it, but not enough to obscure the words. Make sure to save your work often. You can go up to press the icon at the top of the screen, or you can press Ctrl S to save. Again, if the text scrolls because there's too much text in the text box, just resize the text box. From here, you need to make some design choices. You want the layout on the slide from all the components to look balanced. So you need to have about the same amount of space between each component. On a presentation that is going to be shown to a large group, you're usually going to want to use a font size of at least 18 to make sure that everyone in the audience can see. But if it's on a computer screen that an individual is going to use, you can get away with a much, much smaller font size. From here, you can choose a new slide template. And we're going to use the next one. Consulting the script for the module will allow you to match up the words to the best template. If there's too many words for the template, then it'll look cramped and difficult to read. If there are too few words for the template, it will look empty unless you fill the space with a picture or a video. Just like with the first template, this template can also be rearranged. You're going to want to consult your first slide to make sure that the font sizes match up for consistency. You can add images from that same media library used to add the image to the first slide. To match the first slide, I'm changing the color of the background. I'm consulting the first slide to make sure that the font size is consistent. And I'm also changing the typeface to match. And replace the rest of the text with text from the module script. There are quite a few words in this introduction, and I don't want to cram all of them on the page all at once, so I'm going to overlap them and have them appear one after another. I'm going to center this on the slide. And then I am going to duplicate this text box. I'm copying it and pasting it right over top of the original. I'm making sure that it lines up with the original. And this text I'm going to overwrite with the next line from the script. So I copy it, I highlight the whole thing, and I paste it. The overlap, that is intentional. And then I do the same exact thing again for the final line. I copy the text box, I paste the text box, and then I overwrite the contents of the text box. There are now 3 text boxes on top of each other, overlapping. In the timeline, it shows each text box individually. That means each one can be selected individually, and each one can be changed individually. The first text box has the first words of the script in it. Selecting the first text box allows you to change the state of the text box. Changing a state allows you to change an individual object, not the entire slide. If you want to change the entire slide, you can use a layer. You can add a new state. Right now, the default state is normal. That means it shows up. We want to add the state hidden. That will hide the text box until we are ready for it to be shown on the slide. We're going to do that for each text box that we want to hide at some point. We add the state hidden. For the first text box that shows up, we want it to be there when the learner clicks on the slide. The other two, we want those default states to be hidden so that it is not there until we're ready for it to show up. Stretch out the timeline by clicking it and dragging it. I am estimating that this slide will take 30 seconds to display all text boxes. If you have a voiceover recording, you can add the audio from the voiceover and then later tweak the timing to match. From this point, we can add triggers to the slide. A trigger allows the objects to move around on the slide, and it also allows user interaction. In this case, we want to have all of these text boxes on a timer. In the timeline, select the object that you want to add a trigger to. Select Add New Trigger. Under Action, select Change State Of. It'll autofill whatever you have selected. Right now it's normal, so we want to change it to hidden. We want it to do that when the timeline reaches, and then you type in whatever time it is that you want it to show up. In this case, I'm estimating it'll take 10 seconds to read that first sentence. Okay, that's the first trigger. So now we want the next text box to show up when the previous one is hidden, when it disappears. We want to change the state of the second text box to normal. At the same time that the previous one disappeared. So we set that to 10 seconds. We're going to set this one to 10 seconds too. We want it to happen at the same time. Then what we're going to do is we're going to do that same thing over and over again for the next two. We want to change the state of the second one to hide it when the timeline reaches 20 seconds. I'm estimating that it'll take another 10 seconds to read that second text box. And then we move on to the third text box. We want that one to appear when the timeline reaches 20 seconds. That text box will stay there through the rest of the slide, which is another 10 seconds because it's 30 seconds total. So to recap, the first text box is there for the first 10 seconds. The second text box is there for the next 10 seconds. And the third text box is there for the last 10 seconds. Next, I don't want the user to be able to click that continue button to move on until all of the text has appeared. So we're going to do the same exact thing to the continue button that we did to the text boxes. We're going to add the state hidden. And we're going to use the triggers to hide that until the timeline reaches the end of the slide, which in our case is 30 seconds in. Now we're going to go to animations. What we're going to do now is we're going to polish the text box appearance and disappearance. So we're going to add a transition to each of these so it fades in and fades out smoothly. You click whatever text box you want, and then you click whatever transition you want. It doesn't have to be fade, but in this case I want it to be a subtle transition, so that's what I'm choosing. I want the continue button to fade in too, so I added it there. At this point, you can preview your slide. You have the option, you can preview each slide individually, but I want to see our progress on both of these. So here is slide 1. And slide 2 is going to autoplay because we have it on the timeline to do so. And that is how you use AI to speed up Articulate storyline production. Thanks for watching.